In this episode of Training Notes, we're going to take a look at what to do in case of an SCBA failure inside of an IDLH environment. The first emergency situation that we're going to take a look at for SCBA failure is a free flow of air. Over the years, I've been a certified technician for a couple of different manufacturers, and they've designed their second stage regulators in a way that if they fail, they're going to fail with giving you too much air rather than not enough. Basically, inside of the second stage regulator, there's some kind of a fork or lever assembly that when you inhale, it lifts that up and allows air to go into your mask. And when you exhale, the fork goes down and stops the flow of air. Like I said, they've designed them in a way that if they do fail, it's where the fork gets stuck in the open position. And I've seen it happen maybe 7 or 8 times over my career, and it's always been on the outside of the IDLH when they're initially starting their turning their air pack on. They'll have their mask on, they'll turn their bottle on, and they'll get a free flow of air. So thankfully, normally when it happens, it's outside, and it's usually the usual cause is just where you haven't exercised the air pack enough, haven't been using it enough, and it'll eventually just get that lever stuck. Now we'll take a look at what to do if this does happen if you are inside of an IDLH. If you are inside of the IDLH and you experience a free flow of air in your mask, the very first thing you want to do is check and make sure your emergency bypass has not came open somehow. Sometimes you'll bump something or you'll look to the side and it'll rub on your shoulder and just crack a little bit, and that'll open up the bypass, giving you a free flow of air. If you check your bypass and you've ensured that it is fully closed, you need to alert your crew that you have an SCBA failure and start regulating the airflow with your cylinder and escape from the IDLH environment. The way that you regulate the flow with your cylinder is you simply get you a good breath, turn the cylinder off. That'll stop the waste of air. You go until you need another breath of air. You turn the cylinder back on, get you a good breath, turn it off, and keep repeating this procedure until you've escaped the IDLH successfully. The second emergency situation, or SCBA failure within an IDLH, is a lack of air. Fortunately, over the years, I've never seen this happen, but I'm sure that it has somewhere. We commonly call this sucking mask. Basically, you get a reduced amount of air or you get no air at all within your mask, and you start feeling the mask come in on your face every time you try to inhale. That's because you've got a good seal on your mask and you're creating a vacuum whenever you try to inhale. Like I said, fortunately, I've never seen this happen, but we've got to train for it because the potential is definitely there. The first thing you want to do is make sure that your SCBA cylinder bottle is turned on completely. Reach back and make sure that it's all the way on, because a lot of times what happens is we get excited, we're ready to get in there, we're ready to help, and we only turn the bottle on 2 or 3 times. When we're putting it on and when we're not breathing hard, it supplies us enough air to where we don't notice it. But when you get in there and start working and you start breathing really hard, 2 or 3 cranks on the cylinder bottle isn't going to get you enough air. So you've got to make sure it's all the way on. If you've reached back and you have ensured that the cylinder valve is completely on, the next thing you need to do is start regulating the air with your bypass, your emergency bypass. Alert your crew that you've got an SCBA failure. and evacuate the area. When you're using your SCBA emergency bypass, turn the bypass on, get a good breath, turn it off, and keep going. That way you're not wasting your air. Air can be very precious. That air is your lifeline. And like I said, I've never personally seen this happen to where somebody's had to use their emergency bypass, but there are a lot of different little working parts and mechanisms inside both your first stage regulator and your second stage regulator that can break. And if you're in an IDLH when that happens, that bypass does exactly that. It bypasses all those little mechanisms and gets you air so you can get out. But be cognizant of the fact that if you just open it up, it's giving you plenty of air, but it's also just shooting out your exhalation valve and you're wasting it. So be careful with that and practice that. You may have noticed that we didn't cover low air emergencies, and that's because a low air emergency is a mayday situation. Maydays can get pretty in-depth, and we need to really cover that in training at our regular training meetings. I do plan on doing a quick training notes video on part of the procedures in a future video. So for today, we're not going to cover low air emergencies. Thanks for watching.